Hi, I'm Tracy Lee, your leading health and nutrition coach and molecular biologist. I've consulted with thousands of people around the world on their human journey. So if you're a seeker looking for answers, information, and knowledge, you'll find it here. Come on a journey with me as we explore the science, the physical body, and the cognitive and energetic space of what it really means to be human. All right, welcome back everybody. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about managing bad habits over winter. Now, those of you who are in the Southern Hemisphere with me, we are about to get into winter. It's getting quite cold already. What are we, like the end of May? And Perth, it's so rainy out there today. What's going on? We had a beautiful week last week because I was over on Rottnest. Rottnest is a little island just off the coast of Western Australia down here near Perth, and it was just so beautiful. The weather was stunning, and but now we're full into it. We're full into winter, and so I guess what I wanted to have a little check-in with you guys is about, I guess, managing some of these bad habits that kind of creep in when we head towards winter, because let's face it, we do like to kind of hibernate a little bit, don't we? It's true. And this is the time when people can kind of fall off the wagon a little bit as far as looking after themselves. So it's a short episode. I'm not going to be talking for too long, but hopefully it's going to give you some tips and tools and strategies that you can use just to get yourself back on track, keep yourself on track, so that when you get through this winter period and you come out the other end, you're not going to be feeling quite as like, oh, I should have done this while I was, going through winter. So let's get to it. I guess the first thing that I want to say is that, let's be real, in that life is not about having structure and routine. You have to live a little. Am I right? I mean, winter is one of those times when we do let the routine go a little. It's cold. We don't want to get out of bed. And so it's easy to let things slide. But I also don't want to, I guess, encourage those feelings of failure when we do let things slide a little bit, because it's okay to just stop and breathe and to have those snuggly mornings in bed and enjoy it for exactly what it is. And we shouldn't feel guilty about that. It's when it becomes habitual and when we start doing it all of the time and we are neglecting the other things in our life that are important, that then we definitely need to reflect on that and make sure that we're not making it something that is becoming an unhealthy habit, because we should be able to fluctuate between all of those things, the good ones and the bad ones, the things that we consider bad, that is, and be able to break those patterns and cycles and habits efficiently rather than letting them get the best of us. And so I guess a few things that come to mind when I think about what happens to people creating bad habits is, that feeling of failure and creating, I guess, a different headspace in being more accepting that you're going to fall off the wagon at times. You're not perfect. No one's perfect, and it's going to happen. But, we have this sense of failure and this fear of failure all of the time, where we think if we can't do something and we're not operating perfectly, that there's something wrong with us. And that's so just not true, is it? I mean, let's be real. I mean, we have to become more accepting of ourselves. And the fact is that how much joy do you get sometimes when you just lay in bed and just stop, right? It's so good. I mean, look, I actually went and bought an electric blanket yesterday because my house is really cold and I don't have anyone here to snuggle at the moment. And so I'm like, my bed's really cold. What's going on? So I'm going to get an electric blanket. So I did, and it is the best thing. Oh my gosh, this morning I did not want to get out of bed. Even Charlotte came in for a cuddle and she's like, oh, this is so good. And she didn't want to get out either. That's my daughter, for all of you who aren't aware or haven't listened to these podcasts before, my 7-year-old. So we did struggle this morning to get out of bed because having a nice warm bed, how appealing is that? It's gorgeous. And so there are times when we're going to fall off the wagon, and we need to try and get into a headspace where we're more accepting of ourselves and not so hard on ourselves all of the time. That's one of the things that comes down to winter habits and the reason why I'm saying this is because what happens is it's a perpetual cycle. We get into a bad habit and then we go, you know what, I'm just going to keep self-sabotaging because you know what, I just can't do it. I seem to be living this, bad habit over and over and over again. So I must be really bad and I'm completely failing. So I may as well just keep failing anyway. And that's not true. It's because sometimes we just need to balance those things a little bit more and be more accepting of the times when we don't do the things that we feel we have to do. And it's creating that acceptance, that personal acceptance for oneself. The other thing is that being more structured in your planning is really important as well. So that's the other thing that can kind of get out of whack. I'm going to say out of whack because that's the first word that came to mind. But that is one of the things that people struggle with is because they aren't planning their days efficiently. More so in winter, I feel like it's because of the weather. It's miserable. It's more miserable outside. It's not as sunny. So we do tend to be a little bit more fluid and a little bit more relaxed. And so planning the night before is really important. So if you are planning to go to the gym or you want to go to the gym or do some exercise, then getting your clothes ready the night before is really important. Making sure that you're still doing the right thing when it comes to your diet and planning your week ahead as far as what foods you're going to eat as well, because we can get a little bit more, I wouldn't say lazy, but we can get a little bit into a rut where it's cold outside, we don't want to go to the shops, it seems like a drag, so we don't go. But it is really important to make sure we're structured with our food so that we can keep our nutrition up there as well. And, this is the key time for comfort foods, but I want to be really clear on what comfort foods are for you. I want you to go back to those home-cooked meals that bring you a lot of joy and comfort and make you feel loved and nurtured. So we want to stay away from all of those trans fats and, omega-6s and all of those things, which we tend to kind of slip into because they're easy, fast foods. So let's try and avoid that by just doing some more planning around our week and see how we can go from there. But also, the last thing is making sure that we have people around us who can help us put things into action. So this can sometimes be a really tricky factor because if you're in a relationship, sometimes that person might be like all over it as well and be into health and nutrition and exercise as much as you. So that kind of makes the job a little bit easier. But other times what I find is that our partners tend to be less on that side, right? So it does make it a little bit difficult because they're like, no, I don't want to eat that for dinner. I want to eat this for dinner. And so it's really easy for us to kind of slip out of routine, especially over these colder months, because we're kind of going with what our partners or our family or our kids want rather than what we know is important for us as well. So making sure that you have, everybody's aware of what's going on. You're not trying to overtake their journey as well, because it's really important that they work these things out for themselves. But making sure that you don't allow yourself, to let the rope slide or let the reins slide simply because you don't want to deal with everyone combating with you or negotiating with you, right? So those are something to be aware of as well. But also making sure that you tap into your community and going out and doing things with other people who share those common interests with you and share those, beliefs around nutrition and exercise around this time is really important, so that you're kind of keeping each other accountable, you're keeping yourselves on track. So that's really important as well. But the other thing I want to talk about, because I've got, me, I've got lots of notes here, but it's really important to enjoy the luxuries of life, don't you think? The reality is that it could now, I don't want to sound all like dark and doom and gloom, but it could be all over in a second, right? This is how it happens. It's fast. We're not here for that long and we don't know how long our journey is. And, you could be here to 110, who knows? So you've got a long way to go, right? So you've got a lot of shit to deal with in the next however long years, how many years you've got left. But it might not be. And so, let's loosen up a little bit, enjoy the time. You want to go out and enjoy a nice meal and a glass of wine and, sit by the fire and sleep in the next day. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. If it becomes a thing over and over again and you're getting these bad habits and you're drinking a lot every single weekend, every single night, of course you've got to go, hang on a second. Is this controlling me or am I controlling it? That's the main message there, isn't it? But if it's something that is just happening periodically and you're enjoying the experience and the luxuries of life, what's wrong with that? I say go for it. Why not? And you don't want to spend your entire life working, for a life you want rather than living the life you have. I would say you don't want to do that, right? You want to be living the life that you've got this privilege to have and to be enjoying it for exactly what it is. And it doesn't have to be, anything other than what you're able to provide for yourself, as long as you're happy. That is the main thing. So enjoy the things in life that bring you happiness, but know your limitations and make sure that you're setting a deadline when it comes to doing things that are, perceived as a bad habit for yourself. And again, I go back to that key statement of, are you controlling it or is it controlling you? And that is one of the key things that we need to reflect on. So if we're creating a bad habit, is that habit controlling you or do you have it under control? So again, reflect on that and see what resonates for you. So when we have all the things we love, and all of the time, the other thing is too is that they lose their value and we start looking for other maybe bad habits to just get the same rush of endorphins. And there's so many, other things that you can find that you might love and enjoy. You don't have to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, because like I just said, what happens is then we create this positive loop, this feedback loop where something brings us joy. So we get the rush of endorphins, we feel the pleasure sensations, but eventually that loses its spark and we start looking for something else. And that's something to be aware of as well, is creating these things that bring us joy, but we do them too often. Yeah? Does that kind of resonate for you? I wonder if there's something you're thinking of right now that you love to do, but sometimes you do it too much and you just don't want to do it anymore because it loses its spark. So we need to spread ourselves around and have different things going on in our life and create more balance in different areas so that we can enjoy different things, enjoy people in our life as well. We don't have to hang around the same people all of the time. It's so important to spread ourselves around because we get different opinions, we get different viewpoints of the world, we get to learn, we get to be challenged. These things are all really, really important. So create this sense of community over the winter period. Instead of hibernating, actually get yourself out there into your community, into your friend circles, into your family circles, and start spreading yourself around a little bit more because that's so important. What are some of the luxuries you enjoy? What are they? Have a little think about that. What are the things that you love to do? Because now that we are going into this cooler period, and I know I've got some listeners in America and Canada and Europe, so you guys are, you're in the opposite to us right now down here in Perth, but that's okay. So, I'm going to have other episodes come up for you guys and that's fine, but I am talking to my Southern Hemisphere people at the second, and what are some of the luxuries that you enjoy over winter that you might like to do? Yeah, instead of hibernating, have a little think about those. Remember, one of the most important things for us to remember is that as humans, we're living a life that is actually removed from the norms of human nature. It wasn't that long ago that we were roaming the earth. Yeah. From an evolutionary perspective, I mean, we've only been living in this type of social setting for such a teeny tiny amount of our evolution. But normally we would be out roaming the world, roaming the earth. We would be migrating towards the equator in the cooler months so that we could have more food, more warmth, more access to different things in nature. And so we are living a very abnormal situation here where we are isolated in many ways. Not just mentally and emotionally and intellectually, but also physically. We're very physically isolated. And so that means that, we don't get the sunshine, for example, that we should get. The UV index is only at 3 or 4 right now, which makes it incredibly difficult for us to create vitamin D. So hopefully that's something that you might have, listened to the other episodes and the importance of vitamin D and you've stored up over the summer months. But that's something that does tend to lack in a lot of people over winter. And this is where we get colds and flus, right? Because we don't have the vitamin D stored in our liver. We don't have ample levels stored up. So it's really important to just understand that as well. We're not living in a normal setting. We would normally be roaming. And so if you have the opportunity to go north, how good does that feel? I mean, I don't really know that many people that live in Perth that haven't been to Bali. And there's a reason why everyone migrates to Bali for the warmth, because we get sick of the cold. And so we want the sunshine. It's almost like our body craves it. And so we head to Bali, and mostly because it's cheap, right? Let's be honest. It's cheap, we can eat, we can drink, we can enjoy the sunshine, we can have a good time, we can stay there for a while. Unfortunately, Australia tends to be quite expensive for us to holiday, which is why we don't tend to go to our northern places. We tend to leave the country. But there is a reason why we're drawn to that, and it's because we want to get out to the sunlight. We want to be migrating north. We're supposed to be roaming. It makes a lot of sense. And so if you have the option to do something like that, then why not? Why not get away, go camping, go north, head north, right? And enjoy some of the sunshine up there. All right. So what are some of the things that you can enjoy in the colder months, but also keeping routine, okay? Adding some luxuries in there as well. So I've got a little list here of some of my tips. I can't even remember if they're tips because I wrote this last week. So we're just going to go with it and see what comes up. So exercising is obviously one of the biggest elements that goes out the window during winter, and second to that is an excess eating for comfort. All right, we know this. So what are some of the things that we can do? 1, schedule movement into your diary each week and stick to the plan. So exercise releases endorphins and it keeps you happy and healthy. So at the beginning of every week, I arrange my week and I look at my schedule in advance and book in classes and make sure that I have a regular gym sessions, on given days. And you can do this as well because it's really important to prioritize movement into your schedule. And it doesn't need to be heavy and hardcore and you have to go crazy. It doesn't, with exercise, it doesn't matter, especially for women. You need to stick with the cycles, right? So we need to move with our cycles. I'm in a low week of my cycle right now and I really can't be bothered. So some of the things that I love to do is yoga, okay? I like to do my yoga, my meditation. I like to go to some sound healing. And then aside from that, I might just do some gentle weight training. Okay, so it doesn't need to be vigorous because once I get through this part of my cycle and I go back to the earlier days of my cycle where my estrogen is higher, I'm going to feel like doing more vigorous exercise and that's great. But right now I don't. So we've got to plan these things out and book ourselves into some classes. So I would highly encourage you to do this in advance so that you're keeping yourself accountable and making sure that you are scheduling it in is a priority for you. That's super important. Put your clothes out the night before so there's no excuses. Yeah, so that's definitely another thing that I do as well. I do that. I just do it. I have to do it. I line everything up. I have my gym bag packed with my water bottle and my little gloves I use for doing weights and a towel. And then I also have my gym clothes, right? And my shoes and my socks and everything, so that I cannot have an excuse. So when I get up in the morning and I have a shower, I put my gym clothes straight on, so I'm already ready to go. If I've got Charlotte, I drop her at school and then I go straight to the gym if I'm able to do that. Otherwise, it's after hours, obviously. But and I've got them ready for later in the afternoon. But what you can hear what I'm getting to is making sure it's a priority for you, making sure you're putting it aside so it's important and you're actually seeing it through. All right. So when it comes to food, there's food is there to be enjoyed, but remember it's all energy. So energy that is used by the body to perform certain tasks. And if you aren't burning energy, you're storing energy. It's as simple as that. It's ins and outs. Yeah. And with the ins and outs, we have vitamins and minerals and amino acids and all sorts of different things that are coming in and out of that as well. But at the end of the day, when it comes to storage of fat cells, it comes down to energy. So we need to be mindful of what we're actually consuming and if we're doing enough exercise to burn off the energy that's incoming. So just be aware of that. If you're going to have days of luxury and have all of the wine and, all of the luxury foods, the cheeses and all of the hams and all of those sorts of things, which are high fatty foods, which have a lot of energy, you need to be doing a good gym session to actually be burning that off. It's as simple as that. But winter is actually the time where we're supposed to be storing a little bit. And the body knows this because normally what would happen is when we go through periods of summer and we go through sessions of drought, we need fat on the body to actually burn for energy. So it's not necessarily a bad thing when you do put on a bit of weight over winter, is because that's how, from an evolutionary perspective, the body has been built to actually plan for the season coming. Right? Does that kind of make sense? I'm sure it does, right? There's a couple of alarm bells going off right now. The body naturally stores over winter because it knows that in summer, typically, it needs to fast and it needs to burn off the excess energy that's been stored on the body. So I'm just repeating that for you. However, again, we don't live in a natural setting. We have a shopping centre, right? This is the thing. We are very blessed in this country in that we have adequate food. So, I know that obviously this is circumstantial and social settings, so it's circumstantial as well, and I understand that. However, we do have a shopping centre and we do have supermarkets, so we don't actually have to roam the planet to go and gather and collect our food. It doesn't work that way for us anymore. So it is really, really difficult for people to not store on excess energy. It has become incredibly difficult, and we've got a lot of processed foods, and a lot of these processed foods are super concentrated in their energy value. And so it does make it really difficult. So being mindful of what you're eating and having high quality food, whole foods, back to nature over this time is really, really important. And try to minimize the processed stuff. Yeah. Try to keep the toxins as low as possible. So I know that I've spoken about this in previous episodes, but just a refresher, the more fat cells we have in the body, okay, the more toxins the body holds. So the fat acts like a sieve, like a strainer, like a pasta strainer, and it holds. So when anything comes through the body and through the cells, any toxins get held in the fat cells. And the only way to get rid of those toxins in the fat cells is to burst those cells open so that we can release the energy within those cells. And that's only going to happen when we exercise. So it's really important that you understand that processed foods and all of the artificial stuff that comes with processed foods will be stored in the fat cells over winter in the body. And you do have to work incredibly hard to then get rid of those toxins later down the track. So just something to be aware with. Always come back to whole foods, come back to nature. Eat well, choose as well as you possibly can to make sure that you're eating as proper as you possibly can for your body. All right, so what else have I got here? Yes, enjoying the evenings with a warm cup of tea or ceremonial cacao, or just snuggle up with your lover. What's better than that? How blissful is that? So use your cacao. The Cacao Collective here in Perth has an amazing cacao, ceremonial cacao. And, I've had my recipes. I'm pretty sure I've got a recipe up on my website as well, so you can check that out. But I like to just make my cacao with a little bit of maple syrup, a little bit of raspberry. Sometimes I throw a little bit of raspberry in there. I've got this beautiful little tonic that I throw in, which just has like a raspberry undertone, and it's gorgeous. A little bit of salt. You can add a bit of chili if you want to as well. You can make it up. The best milk I find, if you're not allergic to nuts, is macadamia milk. I always find that makes it just so incredibly rich and creamy. So try that. I'm not against cow's milk. I drink cow's milk. I have no problem with that. But I do find that for some reason, macadamia milk just makes the best ceremonial cacao. So maybe give it a go. But also teas and things. One of the things that we tend to neglect, and I'm going to talk about this next, is that we don't drink as much water. So remember, the cue in the body for hunger and hydration is through hunger pains. And you might not actually be hungry. You might actually need water. It's really typical for people to stop drinking as much water in winter because the body isn't sweating. It's not perspiring. However, you still need at least 2 liters of water every day, because if you don't have that, what happens is dehydration can result in fatigue. And you can start feeling drowsy and you can start feeling under the weather. Okay. And it's simply because the organs might not be getting enough water and fluids through to them. So sometimes we can kind of misdiagnose ourselves and think there's something wrong and we're tired and we're drowsy and we're not feeling well. It's because we're actually not drinking enough water and the body is dehydrated. And we simply just don't typically drink a right amount of water because we just don't sweat. We're just not as hot, right? But we still need to drink at least 2 liters of water every day. So I would encourage you to do that as well. All right. The other thing too, maybe you might like to look at enjoying an infrared sauna, getting all cozy and removing some of those pesky toxins I just spoke about with an infrared sauna treatment. How nice is that? There's nothing better than sweating in winter. Then you're definitely going to need a lot of water. But gosh, I love the sauna treatments. They're so amazing. You can head over to Mind Body Lounge. They have an infrared sauna there. It's incredible. Actually, they have a lot of different stuff there that you should probably check out at the Mind Body Lounge, because especially since we don't have the sunlight, it's really important for us to step into the infrared light so that our mitochondria are nice and happy and we're getting lots of energy in the form of ATP. So mitochondria are the ones that build all the energy in the cells, if you're not aware of that. So we need the light to actually activate our mitochondria. So if you don't have the light, you're going to feel tired. See, all of these things, they seem really minor, but they all just add up. And if we let one slide, then everything else has a kind of knock-on effect. So we need to be aware of that as well. Now, the next one, excess alcohol consumption obviously leads to further dehydration. I'm going to have a drink of water now because I'm getting really thirsty just thinking about it. So excess alcohol consumption. Obviously, that can lead to further dehydration as well. So if you're not drinking enough water, but then you're finishing the day off with a nice red wine or something like that, hello, dehydration, right? The organs aren't going to be happy. And then you're going to start feeling fatigued. And you're like, why am I so fatigued? And I just want to lay in bed and I don't want to get up. It's probably not because you're enjoying the winter period. It's probably because you're dehydrated and you really can't be bothered getting out of bed. That's why. Okay, so the number one thing I guess I would also recommend for people is to keep yourself accountable, right? If you're having trouble with this and you're really struggling being motivated, organize yourself an appointment with a coach. Like myself, there's plenty of others out there that aren't local, or you can still do it over online, through Zoom, whatever, right? But having someone that you can be accountable with, maybe it's your partner, maybe it's a friend, I don't know, but making sure that you are actually keeping yourself on track is really important. And you can get a PT, a personal trainer over winter as well, to help keep you accountable and encourage you to stay on track. That's really crucial. All right. So my final messaging is, at the end of the day, it's willpower. Yeah. It all comes down to your motivational ability and making sure that you are in control of your bad habits, that they're not controlling you. And if they are controlling you, this is where we need to get help. And this is where we need to seek other assistance as well, perhaps, right? So making sure you're reaching out and getting that assistance to kind of get those things under control. Again, organization, making sure that you're organized the day before. So you don't have to, think about it when you wake up in the morning. It's already there. How good is that? It's like, oh, yes, my clothes are ready. Everything's done. I literally just have to put my clothes on and get myself to the gym. Perfect, right? Make sure that your music, if you're using earbuds, whatever, they're charged. Okay. I know for a fact that some people, they get to the gym and because their earbuds aren't charged, they just go, this is too hard. I'm not going to do a session today. So again, organization, make sure that you have all of your stuff prepared. So you don't have to procrastinate. You don't have to leave and feel uninspired or unmotivated. Yeah. Understand how your body works. Learn more about your body so that you can enjoy the luxuries of life, so that you can have this bit of energy influx, but you know exactly what you need to do. Knowing how your body works means that you understand how toxins work in the body, how many toxins you can have, the choices that you make, all really crucial, so making sure that you get through the winter period and into summer and you're not going to feel as though you're sluggish and you're tired and you're lacking motivation before you get there. Yeah, so understanding how your body works is so important, okay? One of the most vital vitamins that you've hopefully stored plenty of, and I mentioned it before, was vitamin D. Now, vitamin D stores during summer, yeah, and then stays stored in liver for up to 4 months. So hopefully you've received a good amount of vitamin D, and this is going to help your immune system along with zinc and vitamin C as well. There's other different factors, and I talk about those as well in other podcasts. You can check those out. But if you don't have enough vitamin D, it does make it difficult for the immune system to fight incoming infections. And so, like I said before, unfortunately, over the winter months, our UV index is so low that it does make it really difficult to receive enough light. So if you haven't before, download the D-Minder app and check it out so you know exactly what is available as far as vitamin D, what time of the day, based on your location, you need to step outside and you can get some vitamin D building. Unfortunately, because the UV index is so low, you're just not going to be able to stay out there for hours at a time. And it's so cold and it's cloudy. Yeah, so it does make it really, really difficult. So this is why using the summer months is so crucial in building our vitamin D stores. If that hasn't happened for you, then I would highly encourage you to speak to your healthcare provider or your chemist or pharmacist and find out a little bit more information about supplementation. So perhaps taking a supplementation of vitamin D or zinc picolinate or vitamin C as well, so that you are prepared to tackle any colds and flus that are going to come through in this season. And that's really important. But again, have a chat to them about that. Vitamin C is not stored in the body. You need it every day. Same with vitamin B. Yeah. So these are water soluble vitamins, which means you have to take them every day or you have to have a source of them every day because they pass straight through the body. You would notice that if you have Berocca, you know how like if you've got a hangover and you take Berocca, which is just pumped full of vitamin B, and then you just wee out vitamin B. It's because the body only takes what it needs because it gets rid of the rest. It doesn't store it. It's the same with vitamin C. With vitamin D, it's created by the body. Yeah, so it requires the light from the sun, cholesterol in the blood. It needs to be transported down to the liver and converted into D, and then it's stored in the body for 4 months. So there's a process involved. But if you don't have access to that, you might actually need to take a supplement, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just find out where your levels are at, speak to your healthcare provider, and find out if some gentle supplementation would be worthwhile for you. I often post things like that on my stories as well because I do think it's really important. My levels are really, really great because I do step out into the light, and I've still got a tan from summer because I do step out in the light at the right times of the day where I'm not going to burn and not going to do damage and not exposing myself to bad high levels of UV light. So it's really crucial that you know how to use the sun. But there's nothing wrong with supplementation, but you need to understand which ones to take. High quality ones. You don't want to be having ones with sulfates and nitrates in them as a preservative. Okay, you want high quality ones. And it doesn't mean more expensive. It just means being smart about which ones you actually research and purchase for yourself. So that's all. Oh, look at that. 35 minutes. Didn't do too bad. Look, I hope that gave you a bit of direction for winter because it is important, I guess, in summary, to enjoy ourselves. This is what life is all about. It's about balance, enjoying each and every moment with the people that we love and the people that we care about, and enjoying those human moments because they are very much fleeting and we don't know how long we're going to have. And I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom, but there is more to life than just working and exercising and doing all of the right things all of the time. We have to work in balance. That's the key message. It's not about trying to drive ourselves crazy in burnout, trying to achieve all the time and striving for particular things to be perfect all of the time because they're not going to be perfect. No one's perfect. So just enjoy your life. Know your limitations. And if something starts to control you, make sure you get a hold of that. It's as simple as that. So if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with your family and friends. And of course, I would love if you would leave a 5-star review because that's really important to keep these episodes out there. This is a free offering. I say this every time. It's free. I do this out of love. I do this because I genuinely want to reach as many people as possible and to get this information out there. So I offer it for free. So please share it with your family and friends and listen to some of the past episodes. I don't have any workshops or circles coming up at this stage, but I will touch base with you guys very soon because I have no doubt that they are going to kick off again very shortly. So I'll keep you up to date with those. But until next time, just enjoy your life. I'll speak to you later. Bye-bye. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this podcast should not be used or treated as a substitute for nutritional, medical, psychological, or other advice by a qualified health professional. Hosts and guests on the podcast express their own opinions, experiences, and conclusion, and nothing in the podcast should be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical condition. The podcast is not intended to replace any medical or mental health treatment. All information and advice provided is for general well-being and does not take individual cases into consideration, nor myself, guests, or any sponsor endorse the opinions, views, or conclusions expressed or shared on this podcast.